Hi, I'm Kevin Ells, Marketing Director here at Haptik, and I'm joined here today by Swapan Rajdev. I'm going to have Swapan pronounce his last name for me, and he's the founder of CTO of Haptik. Today we'll be discussing ChatGPT, and I'm going to have Swapan define what those three letters mean a little later, and how it's taken the internet by storm. ChatGPT technology draws on the power of AI and leverages internet data to converse just like a human being. And by gathering and assessing information, this cutting-edge tool can bridge technology boundaries by conversing with us as naturally as we do with each other. Now, I'd first like to introduce Swapan. Swapan is the founder and CTO of Haptik. He's quite a mover and shaker in AI and machine learning. And I'm going to ask him to share a few thoughts or highlights of his background before we get started. Swapan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Kevin. Excited to be here. And, you did pronounce my last name very well for that matter. It's Rajdev. Got it for that matter. But no, I'm excited to share my thoughts about ChatGPT. ChatGPT is, in fact, just some background. It's technically the third big model OpenAI is publishing in different fields. They had GPT initially. They actually had DALL-E, which was generative AI for images. And then, ChatGPT is coming in from a conversational standpoint. So, I'm super excited to chat about this. The funny thing is, till you just mentioned it right now, what does GPT stand for? Even I didn't know about it much. And what I just did is actually on ChatGPT, I said, what does GPT stand for in NLU? And, the answer is it's generative pre-trained transformers. It's transformers are machine learning models. It's generative in nature. So that's what it is. But it gave a fairly good description. So I've been able to answer what you just said within a few seconds using this. And, I'll probably do that a bunch. I think just to, keep it fun.
Right.
While we're talking about it, I'll be like, hey, let's check it out what ChatGPT says, and maybe we'll get some fun stuff out of it.
Maybe next time I'll just interview ChatGPT, and you can come back and give your commentary to its answers.
There you go.
So what's funny, let's define what ChatGPT really is. So just like you, I went out to the internet, I went out to ChatGPT and I asked it what it was. I wanted to get its definition because it's such a new tool that the definition is new to the internet. And when it came back, it actually replied back, I'm not familiar with the term ChatGPT. Is it possible that this term was coined recently or it's only used in certain contexts I'm not aware of? Without more information, I'm unable to prepare a definition of ChatGPT. So ChatGPT was trained on the internet, but it couldn't have been trained on itself because itself did not exist. So it's pretty funny that what you'll find is using this tool, it has to be stuff that was acquired or learned prior to its implementation. And that's true of many other AI tools that are used for writing. They have to have known the past to be able to write about the past. Now it can infer on what it's learned in the past, and we'll get into that later. What's interesting, if you go to the wiki definition, it's very clear. It's ChatGPT is a protocol on AI that's developed in 2022 by OpenAI, which specializes in dialogue. It's based on OpenAI GPT 3.5, which is a model for understanding language, and it was launched in November 22. It's garnered a lot of responses, a lot of interest. In fact, I believe 1 million registrations of the tool have already been registered. It's good, but some of its facts have been criticized a little bit for its accuracy. So before we get into the deep dive of the product, is there anything you'd like to share before I bombard you with a series of technical questions and we get all nerdy?
No, I think let's get right into it. As I said, to keep it light, I'll keep adding tidbits of ChatGPT in our conversation if I can do it, but let's get into it.
All right, let's get started. So ChatGPT has taken the internet by storm. It's one of those times in the era of technology where even non-technical people are raving about it. I've seen my friends on Facebook chatting about it and having all kinds of fun with it. It's groundbreaking AI intelligence. And so when you saw it, what was your first reaction, being a person who founded a chatbot company?
Yeah, I think my first reaction, so I actually saw a screenshot of it on Twitter somewhere, literally a few hours into it being released. And, the screenshot looked interesting. So I said, hey, let me go try it out myself. one of the things which I, have been fairly impressed by, and which is exactly what you said. The big thing about AI or technology, and especially in this, AI, chat bots, those kind of scenarios, right? Most of the people building these technologies kind of build it for, let's say, what I like to think, technical audiences, right? So one of the big hurdles of anyone being able to really see the power of these machines is the usability of it, right? What I've seen ChatGPT do really well, and I think that's what happened really well, right? They kept it really, really, really simple, right? Like they were just like, like what Google did for search. One text box, type in whatever you think, right? They've not kept any guardrails, any restrictions, just put in whatever you think. And the good thing is it always comes back with an answer, right? And the answer, the good thing is it's coherent. So it makes sense. Now, whether it's right or wrong, we'll get into that, right? But it makes sense at the first go. So you're like, hey, I just put in a random thought, I got some good replies. The second thing I think which was impressive, especially in this space, is the answers were long, elaborate, and coherent all this time, all through the whole thing, right? Because what happens in this space, and you've seen it in multiple places, as you're having conversations with an AI system, it starts off strong, but as you keep having conversations, it keeps losing coherence. You're just like, hey, now it's starting to not make sense at all.
Or it starts repeating itself.
Or it starts repeating itself, right? And the good thing about this is, one, they give you very long answers, so you take your time consuming it, but you can keep having dialogue and it keeps making sense, right? I think, to me, making sense is a big part of pushing the boundaries of the technology, right? Like it's very hard to do that. So I was fairly impressed by some of these aspects of how they've done it, right? Made usability very simple, kept it very open-ended for people to just interact, and the interactivity at least was coherent and made sense. So I think that was very impressive. There are a lot, I think, limitations, and especially in the real world scenarios, but as we chat, I'll keep talking about it. But at least first thoughts, that's what came out.
Yeah, I've been reading about it. Actually, I prepared last night to do some more reading on it and learn more about how to use it and how it, as you said, it gives you a pretty long answer, so maybe 3 paragraphs of the answers, but then I wasn't clear that it understands what it just said. So if you refer the next sentence to something, it can go back and refer the next answer to what it just said. So it's kind of building on a thought like a human does. So I was impressed with that. I wasn't sure it was doing that. I've seen it on other tools, like writing tools, that it builds the writing on the previous sentence or paragraph. But I see ChatGPT doing the same thing. We are seeing some tech leaders debating if this is going to replace Google or other services like it. What are your thoughts on that? And I have my thoughts on that, but I'd like to hear yours.
Yeah. No, we can get into this debate, and I would love to hear your thoughts as well. So, I actually did a tweet on this topic as well. So here's my thought on it, right? I think ChatGPT, as I said, it's an interesting tool. But I think Google does a lot. So let me kind of explain what I think about the whole thing. I think it will take certain traffic away from Google. I do not think it has the capability today to replace Google. So there are a few areas that it does really well on. So as a user, when I want to do research, right? And the reason I kind of started the conversation on that, which is I have a simple question which is common knowledge, or should be common knowledge, and I can go just ask it. I get that reply back very instantaneously, very to the point. So things like doing research on a particular topic, things like getting thoughts clearer. So let's say I have a long paragraph, I want a summary on this, right? I think those kind of tasks GPT is very good at. And people use Google for that, right? People go and, can you tell me what does GPT stand for? I would have done that in Google. I did it here. I got an answer split second, but very succinct. I don't have to go use my mind on links and all of those other things. So I think things like researching a particular topic it's very good at. Secondly, I think generating language, which is if you want to write a blog, if you want to summarize a particular paragraph, I'm not saying it does a great job at it, but it's a good thought seeder, right? Like it'll give you good thoughts, which you can work on top of. People Google that a lot, right? Can you tell me about this, or what do I do? So they're looking for thoughts they can seed a blog post on, or a particular topic on. So I think a couple of those it's very good at. Where obviously does not become good, where Google does phenomenal is, exactly what you said, right? The real timeness of information, right? So it has been trained up till a certain point in time in this world. So it was trained, I think, till 21 end or 22 beginning, something on those lines. Information after that, it cannot consume, right? And consuming that information back is a very, very hard problem, which Google does a very good job of, right? So if you're talking about latest topics, if you want latest trends, if you want to know what's happening in real time, GPT is not going to be able to do that. And honestly, in the world we live in today, the most recent information is the most important information, right? So I think there's a big difference there. Until they're not able to solve some of that, I think Google has a very, very massive market, just keep playing at. So at least high level, my thoughts on
Yeah.
that.
So, as a marketer and a person who spends a lot of your money actually on Google for search, I'm happy to see an alternative come along. Google's become a monopoly on knowledge, and that knowledge is now skewed by advertising spend. And you now notice that used to be one search result, two search results. Now four search results appear before the actual answer, and those four search results can be whatever marketers are willing to pay to say. So I'm feeling that people may be feeling that ChatGTP is a more trustworthy source because it's non-biased. It went out there, crawled, used AI to assess what it thinks is the right answer, what it thinks, versus what Google is serving up is what marketers want you to think.
Right.
So I think we're seeing that change very quickly. I just saw Google change how it responds in its answers and how it delivers more answers now that are not paid than it used to. So I think Google knows there's somebody on its tail, and it's always smart to not wait till somebody's come up and beat you to realize there's a new kid in the game. So I think there's definitely a new kid in the game. I do find the answers that ChatGTP may not be as timely, like who won the football game yesterday, but I do find the answers very interesting and useful and not so much skewed. So on that, do you see the influence of ChatGTP improve technologies like we have? So is it going to have potential to improve our conversational AI? And what teams do you think would benefit the most from the tool?
Yeah. Absolutely, right? So I think, see, my thought on ChatGPT being a conversational dialogue system, I think the good thing is they have really, really, really pushed the boundaries of technology, right? So I think the expectation they have set now has become very high, which now everyone needs to try to abide by, right? So I think the good thing is once they have pushed the boundaries, so that helps. But going a little bit more tactical, um, so what happens in conversational AI for Haptik and especially business messaging, right? So at least the domain we are in, we specialize in a user talking to a brand, right? And when you're talking to a brand or a business about something, there's a lot of different aspects, which is, I like to think about it in three different ways, right? You have one, which is your general knowledge, right? So you want to know about the language, what's happening, and all of those things. Because when people are conversing, they could have conversations on those lines. When you're talking to a brand, the second thing that comes in is domain knowledge, right? Like, do you understand the industry you're talking about, right? So if you're talking about, let's say, insurance, right? Do you know what life policies mean? And all of those things. And these are valid questions users have for a brand, right? And they are very, very, the universe of that is very big. That's where ChatGPT, I think, really shines, right? So when you're enabling a conversational technology for a brand, you don't have to now figure out, hey, how do I train it on all the possible questions about insurance, right? You can plug in ChatGPT 3, it can possibly just answer like, hey, what is life insurance, right? What happens? How do I want to claim a particular policy, right? Like those kind of technical terms about a particular industry can be answered by ChatGPT. The third layer of business messaging is actually the nuance about the brand itself, right? Like products about it. What are the return policies? What are the goods or the bads about the product? ChatGPT cannot do that today, right? ChatGPT is a very generic system. It's trained on publicly available information. A lot of this is very proprietary and a lot of that. So I think for companies like ours, I think it's a good marriage. We could see how we can fit in ChatGPT 3 at the right places at the right times to be able to really give a good experience. But it cannot be a technology that just replaces business messaging today, right? So I think there's different layers. There's certain places where ChatGPT will play a role. There'll be companies like ours which have to do a lot of innovation to make the actual experience for brands together. And if we get it together, I think we can provide some great experiences.
Yeah, so it's learnt from the internet, but the internet's not always full of truth. So it could also learn lies, I would think too, because there's not somebody out there QAing. I think it was 167 billion things it's learned, or phrases, or there's a lot. It's learned a lot, and it's just an incapable ability to ask it every question that's possibly going to be asked to make sure they're all accurate. So I can see brands having a little bit of concern about letting somebody else represent what they're saying and what they represent. I would think you would want to go in there and test every scenario you could possibly think your guests would be asking about what your company does to make sure the answers are coming back at what you want it to say, or at least make a disclosure. This answer is not coming back from us. This is coming back from a technology that's researching it, and don't bet your life savings on the answer unless you're talking with a person. I'm not sure how it's going to go, but I do see it complementing. Do you see our brands already asking us, can we benefit from this, or how can we benefit from this?
Well, I don't think they're asking us how we can benefit from this. I think they're more curious. I think everyone, as you said, right? It's there's a lot of caution. Exactly, right? They don't want technology just answering without knowing about it. So I think there's a lot of curiosity and interest in it. And obviously through that, they're like, how do you see it? Is Haptik going to use it? So, to kind of caveat what I said earlier, right? What I said about the complementary, I think that is the vision or the way I see it evolving. Are we there today? Not at all, right? I mean, ChatGPT is very, very basic in the beta research mode. I think there's a lot of new guardrails and things OpenAI will have to do to we do it. So to answer your questions, there's interest, there's curiosity, but it's not like, hey, I want ChatGPT. I don't think anyone's there yet.
So what do you think those gaps are? What are things that, as you mentioned, it can't necessarily know about the sports score from yesterday? And quite frankly, I don't need AI to tell me that. I can look it up anywhere. But what can't it do today, and what does it really need to work on to improve it, that you see that you'd like to see added to make it more of a tool for us to add to our solution?
Absolutely. So, I think the biggest thing there is, I like to think of this as the word I like to call Chat GPT cannot be tamed right now, right? So it's a wild animal. And while it's exciting and fun to probably play, when you put it in real world scenarios, as you said, a lot could go wrong, right? So one is, if you give it a question, you are going to get an answer. There's not much you can do about that answer. So whatever it throws at you, you just have to either use it or not use it. And the big challenge is, in the AI world, we call confidence scores, right? That how confident, how are you or not, or how creative you want to be or not, right? Like you could be like, no, I want you to be completely factual, or I want you to exactly, use your creativity and, try to join dots which have never been done before. Without controls like that, it's going to be very hard to use it in real world scenarios because you just don't know what's going to happen, right? So that's the first one, which is, there's no, as we call, confidence scores, creativity scores, or any things to kind of really make logical decisions. Should I use this answer or not? Secondly, as I was saying, it's very generic in nature. Most of the AI models usually have what we call a training API, where you can feed it more data to train it, or really make it specific to a particular use case you want to optimize for. ChatGPT is not open for that today. As I said, I do think they will do that at some point in the future. That's what they actually did with GPT-3 when they launched, a while ago. Now you have training and inference APIs of that. So I think that will happen, but today it's very early days, right? It's an untamable beast. It's a great tool to play around with, but I don't know how I can use it in real world today. And that's kind of where I would think the big gaps are from a usability standpoint.
I was just running through some crazy scenarios where I'd like to use it for marketing, but maybe we'll save that for the next episode. Looks like we actually are out of time, so that's a good segue. Is there any closing your remarks you'd like to say before I wrap it up here? Just before we do, though, too, I'd like to note that this isn't the first time, obviously, you've spoken or written or talked about technology. There's a ton of content on our website, blogs. We have a technical blog, we have a corporate blog, we have webinars, ton of information on chat in general and how it's influenced the world and how we're creating solutions to use that kind of technology. But in wrapping up, is there anything you'd like to wrap it up? And besides saying I'll see you soon with the next episode, part 2 of where Chat GPT changed the world?
So my closing thoughts are, you know, I'm super excited about this. I think it's, it's in the realm that is very close to our hearts. So, we talk about conversations, we talk about conversational AI. So I think, ChatGPT has done a great job on really showing the world what technology is capable of, right? So I think they've really built that, hey, you know what? You can think about this. So they've really broadened the horizons. They've built that, hey, this is now achievable, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's great. And I love that because, you can really see that this is the way the world is going to interact, conversations of, my true belief is we think in language, but when we have to interact with machines, we have to convert that language into clicks, right? That how do I go click this or how do I do this? This is the first glimpse into how you can take your thought and interact with the machine right there. So it's a beautiful glimpse. There is a while till a lot of this enters our daily life. So I'm not saying we are there today, but this is, it take its own sweet time, but we know we can get there. So, I'm excited about it. I think, at Haptik, we're doing a lot of groundbreaking work in similar domains, especially with the goal to help businesses interact with their users a lot better. So, it's a great synergy, and I'm excited to see the world we live in a couple of years from now.
Good, excellent. It is an exciting time. Once again, I'm thinking about more things. The last thing I come to mind when you're talking is thinking about Hal from 2001 and how he became self-aware at the end. And well, we got to watch out for ChatGPT when it starts asking us questions. All right.
Yes,
Well,
there is a dark side to it, but as long as we're careful and we control it, we'll be all right.
exactly. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks once again for chatting. We'll have another episode soon. And folks, thanks for watching us.
Thank you, everyone.